The Dominican Republic has long been an iconic country in Maranatha's history. It is a place that represents the moment when Maranatha took a leap of faith into a new chapter as a mission organization. A place that helped to define the Maranatha way of logistics, construction, and volunteer experience. A place that reveals the miracles that can happen when a group of people gather in God's name to serve and build His kingdom. A place where a family of Maranatha churches was born and multiplied. And like any family, we can come home again. And again. And again. On this episode of Maranatha Mission Stories, we take a look at how our extended work in the Dominican Republic has created an incredible network of connections woven by missions. It is a network that started 31 years ago. In 1992, Maranatha organized their first large-scale mission trip in the Dominican Republic. Dubbed Santo Domingo 92, Maranatha ambitiously committed to build 25 churches in 70 days. More than 1,200 volunteers converged in Santo Domingo during that time, building an average of one church every 2.8 days. Gabriel Palino was only 16 years old and a new Seventh-day Adventist when Maranatha first came to the Dominican Republic. He remembers the excitement surrounding the project and how church after church had been built by Maranatha.
Y me interesé en saber quién era esa persona de nombre Maranatha. Desde allí supe luego que Maranatha se trataba de un ministerio que ayudaba a construir iglesia en todo el mundo. Es un conjunto de personas voluntarias que trabajan en la edificación del reino de Dios.
This memory of Maranatha wedged into his brain. Years later, he became a pastor and then president of the Adventist Church in the southeastern region of the Dominican Republic, a region that was growing rapidly in membership.
En los últimos años, la Iglesia Adventista aquí en la Asociación del Sureste ha plantado más de 100 nuevas congregaciones. Muchas de estas iglesias hijas de templos que ha construido Maranatha en el pasado.
But the rapid growth of membership created a problem: the lack of worship space. Just as they had in 1992, groups were meeting in homes, under trees, tents, or other mediocre situations. It was then that Pastor Paulino's memory of Maranatha took on a new significance. Could Maranatha help these congregations just as they had when he was a boy? In 2021, he traveled to the United States to attend a ministries conference. It was there that he ran into Don Noble.
Y en mi poco inglés le dije, "Hey, Don Noble, you remember me?" Y le dije, "I need talk for you."
Pastor Paulino told Don his story and of the need in the Dominican Republic.
Me dijo, ya nosotros hicimos 25 templos en el pasado. ¿Por qué no pensar en más? Y yo me sorprendí, dije, wow, no es posible hacer más, aunque sí tenía lugar donde hacer más. Y fue una noche de mucha angustia porque él nos mandó a orar.
Pastor Paulino and his team prayed, and the next day they met with Maranatha once more with a bigger request of nearly 40 churches.
Y por eso Maranatha ahora nueva vez ha venido a República Dominicana a ayudarnos en la edificación del reino de Dios con la construcción de nuevos templos.
So, in December 2022, after months of preparation, Maranatha kicked off its fifth effort in the Dominican Republic with the Christmas Family Project, building a church for La Caleta 5 congregation. It's a congregation that can trace its start from the original effort in 1992. In fact, this daughter church has at least 8 sister churches born from the original, built more than 30 years ago. We'll share this story, along with the story of other places Maranatha will be helping, when we come back. In 1992, when Maranatha launched Santo Domingo 92 and built 25 churches in 70 days, those churches went on to create daughter congregations and granddaughter congregations and more. And with each generation, church leaders in the Dominican Republic called on Maranatha to provide new church homes. Emmanuel Alberti is one of Maranatha's in-country volunteer support staff. He's also the recipient of a Maranatha church. His childhood church, Alpes, was built during Santo Domingo 92. His wife's church was also built by Maranatha.
Yo creo que Maranatha en República Dominicana es como algo muy especial porque la mayoría de las iglesias, por lo menos en la Asociación Dominicana del Sureste, han sido construidas por Maranatha. Yo no tengo el número, pero yo creo que más del 50% de las iglesias son construidas por Maranatha.
One of the most iconic examples of church multiplication is La Caleta Church. It was built during Santo Domingo 92.
It was under these trees in the early 90s that the La Caleta Seventh-day Adventist Church used to meet every Sabbath. In fact, about 1991, I met with them under these trees. And it seems like a beautiful setting along the seashore, and it is. Good place to come for a Sabbath service. But you know, sometimes the weather wasn't too good. And the week that I was here, there were some people that brought some very noisy music that disturbed the church service. So we decided that they needed a new church, and there begins the miracle that God performed through many churches that followed from this location.
La Caleta grew in size, so much that it started multiplying one after the other. All over this area, you'll find a daughter church of La Caleta, and many have received new buildings from Maranatha. This is La Caleta 4. They started when La Caleta number 3 grew too crowded. Plus, the location wasn't convenient for people in this part of the neighborhood. So, a group of people started meeting in a home.
Y al ir creciendo y creciendo, ya estábamos parados. Y al seguir viniendo más personas, buscamos una casita que también era pequeña.
They moved to another house before outgrowing that space, then landed here on this corner.
Bienvenido a la Iglesia Adventista del Séptimo Día, Caleta 4. Esta es nuestra iglesia, que es donde nos reunimos.
There is a main sanctuary, a stage, and even a back room for the children. But it is small, and overall, the space was never meant to be a church.
Estamos creciendo y actualmente estamos aquí. No cabemos muy bien, pero por lo menos un poquito cómodo porque la puerta, la ventilación, una área como asequible donde las personas pueden llegar y aquí tampoco ya cabemos.
The noise is also disruptive and constant on this busy corner. The group managed to buy a plot of land down the street in a quieter location. But without the money to build a temple, the property sat empty for 7 years. Then, in 2022, the congregation received wonderful news. Maranatha was returning to the Dominican Republic, and La Caleta 4 was on the list to receive help. In summer 2023, volunteers with the Family Project are slated to arrive and build them a new church. It's a reality that Alessandra can hardly believe.
Muy agradecido de Dios por Maranatha, por el sueño de realidad que han hecho en nuestras vidas, que el Señor siga bendiciendo su ministerio, cada uno de los planes que tienen a seguir, que sigan siendo entes de bendición para nosotros y que estamos muy agradecidos.
In a different part of Santo Domingo, on the very far outskirts of town, a different congregation is patiently waiting for a Maranatha church. This is the Agape Church. Like so many churches in this region, it grew from a church that Maranatha built years ago. The group started in this specific neighborhood because there was no Adventist presence in the area. So, 5 families started meeting in a local school classroom every Sabbath. In a year, they outgrew the space and moved to a house. Eventually, they bought this property in 2021. They set up a tent, areas for Sabbath schools, and started meeting. Despite the humble setup, church member Juan Martinez says that people are happy.
La gente realmente desea venir a adorar y nos sentimos gozosos. El día que no venimos nos sentimos cómodos. Nos sentimos gozosos porque sabemos que tenemos una visión y es predicar el Evangelio a toda criatura.
This positive attitude has fueled the congregation's drive for outreach through activities like Pathfinders, Adventure Club, and evangelism meetings. But it doesn't mean that there aren't any problems. Having an outdoor church is complicated.
Es un poco difícil porque tenemos que cargarlo, muchas veces no tenemos personal adecuado y bueno, es un voluntariado mayormente y unas vecinas de la iglesia nos permiten colocar algunas cosas importantes allí como el sonido en su casa. De hecho, la luz nos la está prestando la vecina del lado.
Fortunately, the congregation won't have to wait much longer. The pastor of Agape Church reached out to Maranatha for help, and now Maranatha has committed to build a place of worship for the congregation.
Es nuestro deseo hacer un templo para gloria de Dios, pero agradecemos a Maranatha que nos extienda la mano y que esta iglesia sea de luz en este mundo donde estamos, en este sector donde estamos, pues bienvenido sea. Agradecemos a Dios que Maranatha por lo menos se haya fijado en nosotros y que nos dé la oportunidad de nosotros ser parte también de la historia de Maranatha en la construcción de esta bendición que tenemos.
La Caleta 4 and Agape churches both came from a long line of Maranatha churches. They are a prime example of what can bloom once you provide a church home. They are also just two of nearly 40 churches that Maranatha will be helping in the Dominican Republic. However, most of these projects need financial support. The Dominican Republic is a big focus this year, and these communities urgently need your help. Be part of the network of miracles in the Dominican Republic by making a donation of any size. Call the number on your screen or visit maranatha.org to give. When we come back, we head to Luz de Nuevo Amanecer to meet a group of people who are connected by Maranatha projects past. More than 3 decades ago, a man named Phil Becker started tinkering with the idea of going on a mission trip.
I had wanted to do a mission trip of some sort for quite a few years, and one of the ladies in our church encouraged me, why don't you put together a trip and we'll go with you. And so I tried in '91 to organize one, and that didn't work. When we heard about what Maranatha was doing in '92, I started talking to the church about it. And all of a sudden we had 30 or 35 people that wanted to go, and largely families. This first project, I think it stirred the hearts of many people. We have quite a few doctors in the church, and some of them actually came to me and thanked me for helping them to see a bigger picture of the world than what we see every day.
Mark Ropka was among the volunteers that Phil brought to the Dominican Republic in 1992.
Well, it got me addicted to these projects. I'm a surgeon normally, and I found that coming away for a couple weeks and doing manual labor was a relief for me, and I really enjoyed it. And just seeing the joy that it brought. It was really, really wonderful.
People kept coming to me and asking me, where are we going next? Where are we going next? And so it just became a thing that we would do a project every year, somewhere.
For the next 23 years, Phil led or went on a Maranatha project every year, going from Guatemala to Indonesia to India to Zambia and Cuba. Along the way, he's picked up quite a few friends from the countries where he served, and he eventually invites them to become fellow volunteers. This is Anita Peña. In 2004, she was a newlywed, and her husband was a pastor of the Esmirna Seventh-day Adventist Church in the Dominican Republic. She remembers the church was old and falling apart. Then, that same year, Phil Becker's group arrived with Maranatha, and in 2 weeks, the Esmirna congregation had a new church, and Anita had a new friend. Since Anita and her husband could speak English, Phil Becker had recruited her to be a translator for their team.
When we go, we find people that we just connect with. And for me, since I don't speak much Spanish, usually they are people who know some English. And that happened here in the Dominican Republic in 2004, I think it was. We met a young pastor and his wife who just, they spoke some English, and for whatever reason, they really connected with our group.
Así que a partir de ahí, durante 5 o 6 años, el hermano Becker nos invitaba para traducirles en Perú, en Ecuador, en Chile. Fue una experiencia hermosa.
So in 2022, when Phil began planning his latest mission trip, he invited Anita to serve again. By this time, she and her husband had moved to the United States. So when Phil told her the project was in her home country of the Dominican Republic, she was thrilled.
When Brother Becker told me, "Can you come and help us?" I said, "Of course." And then I have double joy because I was going to give back what I once received, and also I get to see my family, so it's happy twice. Before I was just a channel translating, but now I am part of the building, so it feels so real for me.
Anita was on board to join Phil in the Dominican Republic, but he had another person he wanted to pull from past projects. Rocio Ortega from Chile. Rocio was a teenager and new Adventist when she first heard about Maranatha.
Llegué a una iglesia muy pequeña, que era una pequeña cabañita, cuyos miembros eran en su mayoría ancianitos. Y la verdad es que ahí fue la primera vez que escuchamos de Maranatha, porque Maranatha venía a Chile a realizar proyectos de construcción de iglesias, y recién ahí estábamos como postulando para ver si podíamos participar y ser parte de esos proyectos.
Rocio's church was tiny. It was damp and cold, but it was all they had. So when the congregation landed on the list to receive a new church, everyone was thrilled. In 2008, Phil Becker brought a team of volunteers to build her church. For Rocio, receiving the church was wonderful, but meeting the volunteers was life-changing.
Entonces fue como descubrir otra como área de esta iglesia maravillosa que estaba conociendo, y por supuesto que sin lugar a dudas al verlos a ellos en ese momento de alguna manera nos dio también un sentido de misión a nuestras vidas. O sea, como que es posible servir al Señor y poder llevar felicidad a personas que también lo necesitan, como nosotros en ese momento.
Over the years, Phil kept in touch with Rocio and her husband. He invited them to go on projects, just as he did with Anita. But Rocio could never go. Then, in 2022, Phil texted another invitation and included a very old photo.
Y yo abro la imagen que era por WhatsApp, la abrí y era yo cuando era pequeña, ahí construyendo en mi iglesia, ahí en Chile.
The picture was enough to convince Rocio to go, and in March 2023, Rocio, her husband Marco, and their daughter arrived in the Dominican Republic to join Phil, Mark, and Anita in building a new church for Luz de Nuevo Amanecer. Like so many groups in the Dominican Republic, the Luz de Nuevo Amanecer congregation grew out of an existing church. A small group wanted to start meeting in this neighborhood, and a congregation was born. At first, they rented spaces. Then they finally bought this lot, which came with a small house. Pastor Andre Jimenez remembers the house.
Pero estábamos, ¿entiendes? Hacinados, era una casita como esta, pero en madera, con zinc por los lados. Y teníamos esa mejorita, pero no cabíamos, ¿entienden? Teníamos que reunirnos fuera regularmente porque se llenaba la iglesia.
But building a new structure was financially out of reach for the congregation. All they could do was keep saving bit by bit and wait for a miracle. Then the miracle came. In 2022, they received news that they were to receive a Maranatha church.
El regocijo no se puede cuantificar, porque uno, al ver cómo uno se reunía, entonces tiene sentimientos encontrados. Y cómo Dios, uno se emociona tanto de cómo en realidad Dios contesta las oraciones. Porque nosotros orábamos, pero no sabíamos cómo íbamos a producir los medios, porque los hermanos son de escasos recursos.
The congregation tore down the broken-down little house on their property, and in March 2023, 20 volunteers, most of them from the Chehalis Seventh-day Adventist Church, arrived to build them a beautiful new place of worship. Pastor Andre, along with other church members, came every day to help lay block and offer encouragement.
It's kind of amazing here, the church we're building now, because we are a small group. There's no way we could complete this project on our own. But with the Maranatha crew helping us, and then the local church members have really come out and helped us also. So it's a team effort. It's not something that we do all by ourselves.
Not only did the group build the church, they also organized Vacation Bible School for the neighborhood. The program welcomed hundreds of children throughout the week. Rocio and Anita worked together to help with the children's programming.
Y de alguna manera también con la escuela bíblica de los niños, y también ha sido una experiencia linda porque de alguna manera cuando uno ve a esos pequeñitos tan alegres y felices, con atención, con amor y con sus regalitos, como que eso llena el corazón.
They also organized a small eye clinic, much to the delight of the community.
Yo he quedado muy agradecida de Dios y de la clínica que donde ustedes vienen, y he quedado muy agradecida y con mucho amor y con mucho cariño y dándole siempre mucha vida.
Despite being a small team, the group nearly finished their church, even installing the roof on the last Friday of the project. On Sabbath morning, 12 days after landing in the Dominican Republic, the Chehalis and Friends team and the members of the Luz de Nuevo Amanecer Church gathered in front of the nearly completed church for a dedication ceremony.
Esta dedicación significa el comienzo de una nueva historia. De aquí en adelante, el Señor se va a manifestar poderosamente en este sector, y entonces vamos a comenzar a ver la gloria de Dios manifestándose en milagro. Y para mí significa eso, el comienzo de una nueva historia para este sector y para los hermanos de la iglesia.
It just brings me back to Solomon's dedication of the temple and how he invited the presence of the Lord in, and the presence of the Lord came and dwelt there. And I was close to tearing up. And I don't often do that, but just seeing the enthusiasm of the people and feeling that, even though you can't speak to them, you can sense how they feel. And also within our group, there's a sense of accomplishment and being used by God as a tool in God's hands. And it's almost overwhelming. It never gets old. This is what it's all about.
This service is what has been connecting people year after year for the past 3 decades in the Dominican Republic. The overwhelming joy in knowing that we have helped each other to not only have shelter, but to have a vibrant, caring community of faith. This is what connects us all to the kingdom of God.
El servicio es algo que te da paz, te da un propósito para vivir. Así que esas 2 semanas, dejando todo atrás y dedicarme a servir y traer alegría a otros, no tienen precio.
I have to think back 31 years. There's a lot changed in my attitude about who God is. And in that time, my change has been that we were created for service, and we will thrive physically, emotionally, spiritually through giving service, which is against human nature. Human nature says take, take, take. But I'm finding in service is joy.
Creo que no podemos vivir si no podemos servir, y finalmente el servicio es lo que nos trae la mayor felicidad en la vida.
In a couple days, Phil, Mark, Anita, Rocio, and all the others will wrap up this mission trip and will go their separate ways, but remain forever connected to this community, to this church, to the Dominican Republic, and the chain of stories that weave through each member and congregation. to Maranatha and its ever-growing family tree here and around the world. A kingdom that continues to grow with every church, school, person we build.